Na década de 60, o Benfica está em 5 finais.
In the 60s, Benfica got to 5 European Cup finals. They won 2 and lost 3. And from that moment, Benfica became a force with fans all over the world, not just in Portugal. And the fans were mesmerised by the football that Benfica played.
That global dominance is still felt today. The Lisbon derby is watched by fans all over the world. Benfica claim to have over 160,000 associate members worldwide, more than any other club globally.
Benfica is the most important club in Portugal. In fact, it's more than a club. They say that in Portugal, over 60% of people are Benfica fans, while the rest divide themselves among the other clubs. Benfica was the first Portuguese club to gain a worldwide following.
It was here at Benfica's Stadium of Light that Lisbon's finest endured one of their more humbling moments. It's often said the better team loses the Lisbon derby. This was never truer than in October 1965.
Games between Benfica and Sporting tend to baffle you, because quite often the better team tends to lose. In 1965, Benfica had its great 60s team. I remember everyone saying, Benfica are the favourites. They're the better team, they're sure to win. But we were taken by surprise.
On a rainy autumn afternoon, Eusebio and his Benfica teammates were humiliated by Sporting. It was a game that has long prevailed in the memories of most Portuguese football fans.
What happened in this game was something unexpected, totally unexpected. It had rained a lot that day. Benfica also had a goalkeeper who was very good, but very small. And then we had Lorenzo, a very cool-headed player. He didn't get nervous. The derbies didn't shock him at all. On that day, he was simply inspired.
Lorenzo scored a fine hat-trick to lead his team to a famous 4-2 victory. Benfica may have been kings of Europe, but Sporting refused to give up local bragging rights so easily. Their reward, a great win, and they went on to take the title that year as well.
There is no favourite in a Benfica Sporting match, whether you're playing home or away. It's a case of seeing what happens, but there's no way of predicting the outcome.
Few clubs can claim to have Benfica's unique status. Everything is done differently, including their mascot. An eagle is released before kick-off at all home matches. It circles the Stadium of Light, symbolising the club's proud and glorious past.
When the opposition teams see that eagle flying, it can get to them, because it's important to raise the confidence of your own team. When the eagle takes flight, the stadium is buzzing. It gets people going, gives the team a lift. It's very positive.
It's a way of showing the club's symbol, the eagle. And the eagle wasn't flying recently, but now she is. And I think Benfica will be flying too.
The week before a Lisbon derby is like no other. In terms of preparation and pressure, the match is the highlight of any player's season. The game against Porto is pretty big too, but the Lisbon derby is the one the players most want to win.
This rivalry, these derbies, they're built up by the press the week before, and everyone's talking about them. People are making bets as to who will win or who won't win. And all this influences the players, because as a player, you also live this hype that surrounds the derby.
In a country of 11 million people, 9 million are said to follow the two Lisbon giants. It's a game that attracts the attention of the whole country, and covering every second are Portugal's intrusive press.
Every journalist is looking for a different angle. Every journalist is looking for a different picture. And you have to be careful. You know, you have to be careful on Derby Day abroad, because you can't be seen to be stoking the fire in any shape or form.
Generally, people start talking about a normal championship game 2 or 3 days beforehand. But for a derby, it's 2 weeks before, so you're already preparing for it. Then the media get involved during the week, doing interviews, running opinion pieces. So all this makes the player prepare for the game differently.
As with any derby, the fans are the major protagonists. They feel this match like no one else. To win means to rule Lisbon for the next 6 months at the expense of your close and bitter rivals.
Obviously, the makeup of the stadium is totally different. There's a lot more fans. And so many people take this pressure that they feel in the week running up to the derby into the game itself.
And there can be few more incredible sights in world football than a sold-out Stadium of Light, once the biggest in Europe. It's no coincidence that the ground is known as the Cathedral, as fans come to worship before their heroes.
The atmosphere was crazy, really mad. Back then, there would be over 70,000 fans inside the Stadium of Light. It really was spectacular.
The old Stadium of Light was a very unique stadium. You know, a tier after tier that just seemed to disappear into the clouds. And when that was full, it generated a fabulous atmosphere. There were wonderful games to be associated with.
Following the glory days of the 60s, Portuguese football took a turn for the worse in the 1970s and 80s. Both clubs still dominated the domestic scene, but with the decline of the country's golden generation, neither Lisbon side hit the heights in this era.
In the 70s, Benfica and Sporting weren't at their best. Benfica still dominated in the 70s, but it was the start of a decline. Benfica and Sporting's football got worse in the 70s because the 60s generation was finished.
Most concern lay in the Benfica camp. Having been regularly among the world's elite, there was a sudden drop in standards at Portugal's biggest club. Back in 1980, a derby defeat and a third-placed finish signalled a new low.
The main aim for Benfica every year is to be national champions. 1980 was a year of transition. There were players at the end of their careers. Therefore, it was a bad period, and we wound up in third, which, as you can imagine, in terms of the fans, the club, the prestige, and even financial power, it was a catastrophe, a huge loss. But that's football.
During this period, a new force in Portuguese football emerged, this time from the industrial north. From 1985 onwards, Porto were finally able to break into the country's top 2 and transform the National League.
There was a feeling, because Benfica, the biggest club with the most supporters, that they were entitled to be winning championships, and a Porto from the smaller city and being the smaller club, they sort of ruined the party for Benfica at that time. And I think since I was there, Benfica have won a championship once, and Porto have been dominant.
Between 1984 and 1999, Porto won the Superliga an astonishing 11 times. Their dominance coincided with huge droughts for both the Lisbon clubs.